Have you ever had a feeling that someone was falling for you, but they weren't saying it outright? You'd catch a look, notice a specific behavior, or just have this undeniable gut feeling that something was there, simmering beneath the surface. Their actions were sending signals your logical mind couldn't quite decipher, but your intuition understood perfectly. What if I told you that those signals aren't random or vague? According to the famed Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, when someone is falling in love, their unconscious mind takes the driver's seat. This hidden part of their psyche begins to reveal itself through specific, often symbolic, behaviors that are far more telling than words alone. So today we're doing something different. We're merging those modern dating clues with deep Jungian psychology. We're going beyond the basic signs he likes you, and we're diving into the 8 specific things a man does when his unconscious is secretly falling for you. This isn't about playing games. It's about understanding the hidden language of the human psyche. To truly understand what's happening when a man is secretly falling for you, we need to step away from modern dating advice for a moment and take a quick dive into some powerful psychological concepts. The framework we're using comes from the legendary Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, a man who fundamentally changed how we see the human mind. Jung moved beyond the simple idea of a conscious will and introduced us to the vast, mysterious realm of the unconscious. This isn't the Freudian unconscious of just repressed memories and primal urges. For Jung, the unconscious is a deep and dynamic part of our psyche that operates entirely outside of our awareness. It's the source of our dreams, our instincts, our deepest intuitions, and it powerfully influences our feelings and behaviors without us ever realizing it. Think of it as the autopilot of your soul, constantly running in the background and steering you in ways your conscious mind might not logically understand. When we talk about gut feelings or vibes, what we're often sensing are the whispers of this unconscious realm, both in ourselves and in others. Now, one of the primary ways this unconscious content reveals itself is through a mechanism Jung called projection. In simple terms, projection is the mental process where we attribute a part of our own unconscious psyche, often a hidden trait, a desired quality, or even a feared aspect of ourselves, onto another person. We literally project our inner world onto the outer world. This is why we can feel an instant, powerful, and sometimes inexplicable attraction or aversion to someone. As Jung himself famously said, we fall in love with our own unconscious, reflected in another. When a man is falling in love, he is often projecting his inner ideal of a partner, an image held deep within his unconscious, onto you. He's seeing in you qualities that resonate with a part of himself he may not even know exists, which is why this feeling can be so overwhelming and feel so much like fate. This inner ideal for a man is what Jung specifically termed the anima. The anima is the unconscious feminine side of a man's personality. It's not about gender roles, but about energy, the internal, archetypal image of the feminine that every man carries within him, composed of all his experiences, expectations, and intuitions about womanhood. This anima acts as a kind of compass, profoundly influencing how he relates to and understands the women in his life. It shapes his preferences, his attractions, and his emotional responses. When a man encounters a woman who, in some essential way, matches or connects with this deeply buried inner image, his unconscious sits up and takes notice. The process of falling in love, from a Jungian perspective, is the powerful and often disruptive experience of his inner anima connecting with his external perception of you. It's the moment the internal blueprint meets a living person, and that collision creates a spark that originates from the deepest layers of his psyche. Finally, to tie all of this together, we have to understand Jung's concept of synchronicity. We've all experienced those strange, meaningful coincidences that feel too significant to be mere chance. Running into someone you were just thinking about, hearing a perfect song on the radio that answers a question you had, or discovering a shared, obscure interest with someone new. Jung called these events synchronicities, acausal connecting principles. They are events that are not connected by cause and effect, but by meaning. In the context of attraction and falling in love, the unconscious mind, now activated and on high alert, begins to seek out and assign profound meaning to these coincidences. What might logically be written off as chance feels like a sign from the universe because the unconscious is interpreting it that way. It's the psyche's way of affirming the significance of this new connection, weaving a narrative of fate and destiny around the relationship to justify the powerful internal upheaval that's already taking place. 1. He remembers seemingly insignificant details about you. The first and perhaps most telling sign is when he remembers seemingly insignificant details about you. This goes beyond him recalling your coffee order or your job title. We're talking about him bringing up the name of your childhood stuffed animal you mentioned once in a throwaway sentence, the specific brand of cookies your grandmother used to bake for you, or the obscure title of a book you loved as a teenager but thought everyone else had forgotten. On the surface, this seems like a simple sign of him being a good listener and an attentive person, which is certainly a positive trait. But from a Jungian perspective, this behavior is far more profound. This is a clear case of anima activation. You have captivated not just his conscious interest, but his unconscious. His inner anima, that archetypal feminine image within him, is fascinated by the entirety of your being. It isn't a conscious decision to file away these tiny data points for later use. It's that his unconscious mind, now fully engaged and intrigued, is soaking up every fragment of information about you like a psychological sponge. He isn't just listening. His soul is paying attention, collecting the pieces of the puzzle that is you, driven by a deep, instinctual need to understand and connect with the source of this powerful attraction. It's the unconscious recognizing something familiar and essential in you, and it hungers for every detail. 2. He becomes clumsy or awkward around you. A second, and often more amusing, sign is when a typically smooth and coordinated man suddenly becomes clumsy or awkward in your presence. This is the guy who usually has it all together, but around you he fumbles with his car keys, trips over a perfectly flat sidewalk, or knocks over his glass of water. In conversation, he might lose his train of thought mid-sentence, stumble over simple words, or have a sudden case of nervous laughter. The easy explanation is that he's just nervous because he likes you, and that's partially true. But Jungian theory gives us a much richer explanation for this phenomenon. This physical clumsiness is a classic and literal manifestation of the ego being disrupted by the unconscious. The persona, which is Jung's term for the mask of confidence and competence we show the world, is temporarily overthrown. The powerful, emerging feelings from his unconscious, the eruption of this new anima-driven attraction, are so potent and disruptive that they intrude upon his normal conscious control. This emotional energy from the depths of his psyche interferes with the autonomic, smooth functioning of his ego, resulting in these minor physical and verbal stumbles. It's not just nervousness, it's a psychic intrusion that momentarily breaks his usual facade, revealing the genuine emotional turbulence happening beneath the surface. 3. You appear in his dreams. Perhaps one of the most significant signals is when he tells you that you've appeared in his dreams. This is often shared with a tone of casual curiosity or slight embarrassment. Hey, this is weird, but you were in my dream last night. But its significance cannot be overstated. On a surface level, this can be seen as a very bold and flirty move, a way to broach the subject of attraction in a seemingly indirect way. However, from a Jungian standpoint, this is arguably one of the strongest possible indicators that his unconscious is fully engaged. For Jung, dreams are not random neural firings. They are the royal road to the unconscious, direct messages from the deepest parts of the psyche. If you are appearing in his dreams, It means your image has become an active symbol within his inner world. His unconscious is not just passively noticing you. It is actively working to process and integrate the complex feelings he has for you into his broader personality. This dream activity represents the psyche doing its deep work, wrestling with your image, and attempting to reconcile this powerful new attraction with the rest of his psychic structure. It signifies that you are not just on his mind. You have taken up residence in the very fabric of his inner world, becoming a subject of immense unconscious importance. 4. He shares his vulnerabilities and wounds. When a man begins to share his vulnerabilities and wounds with you, it signifies a profound shift in the connection. This is where he moves beyond casual conversation and reveals the parts of himself that are not for public consumption. A past failure that still haunts him, a deep-seated insecurity, a childhood memory that shaped his fears, or a personal struggle he is currently facing. On the surface, and quite rightly, we interpret this as a monumental sign of trust. He feels safe enough with you to lower his defenses, believing you will receive his story with empathy rather than judgment. However, from a Jungian perspective, this act of vulnerability is far more complex and symbolic than simply building trust. It is a critical stage of projection known as the projection of the self. According to Jung, beyond our persona and our anima or animus lies the self, the archetype of wholeness and the central nucleus of the psyche, which encompasses both our light and our dark sides. The aspects he shares, his fears, his failures, his pains, often reside in what Jung termed the shadow, the repository of the parts of ourselves we deem unacceptable, weak, or shameful. By offering you these hidden fragments of his true self, he is doing something incredibly significant. He is unconsciously testing the waters for total acceptance. This is not just about trusting you with a secret. It is about him projecting his innate, unconscious need for psychic wholeness onto the potential of a relationship with you. He is essentially asking, in the most profound way he can without using the words, if I show you the parts of me I have hidden from the world, the messy, the broken, the imperfect, will you still see me as whole? Can you hold the shadow alongside the light? In allowing you to witness his shadow, he is inviting you to become a part of his journey toward integration, making you a central character in his psyche's ultimate goal, becoming whole. 5. He finds meaningful coincidences, synchronicities, between you. One of the most enchanting and seemingly magical signs is when he begins to constantly point out the meaningful coincidences that exist between you. This goes beyond simply noting a shared taste in music or food. It manifests as a sense of wonder and discovery when he learns you both have the same obscure favorite author, vacationed in the same remote spot the same summer, or discovered you were both thinking of the exact same thing at the exact same moment. He might use words like fate, destiny, or it's a sign to describe these moments. On the surface, this is easily explained as the excitement of finding common ground with someone you like. These shared experiences create the sense of familiarity and bonding, reinforcing the idea that you are compatible. But from a Jungian lens, this behavior is a powerful example of synchronicity at work. Jung defines synchronicity as an acausal connecting principle, referring to those moments of meaningful coincidence that seem to defy logical explanation but carry a profound sense of significance. When a man is secretly falling for you, his unconscious mind, now deeply engaged and energized by the connection, becomes a powerful magnet for these synchronistic events. It is not that these coincidences are necessarily manufactured by his psyche, but rather that his heightened emotional and psychological state makes him acutely attuned to them. His unconscious attraction actively seeks out and latches onto any piece of external evidence that can confirm the deep internal feeling that this connection is special and significant. He is essentially projecting his own inner certainty onto the outer world, weaving a narrative of fate because his unconscious is compelling him to do so. This isn't about manufacturing a false connection. It's about his psyche's innate desire to find harmony between the internal world of powerful emotion and the external world of fact, creating a coherent story that this relationship is not just a matter of chance, but a meaningful event in the story of his life. It is the unconscious mind's way of affirming that this powerful internal experience is reflected in and validated by the universe itself. 6. His friends know about you. A significant and often unmistakable shift occurs when you realize that his inner circle of friends already knows about you before you've even properly met them. This might reveal itself when you are introduced to a friend who greets you not with a blank slate, but with a knowing smile, a comment that references a story you thought was private, or a sense of familiarity that implies you've already been a topic of conversation. Alternatively, he might casually mention in passing that he was telling his friend about something you said or did, explicitly bringing this private social validation into your shared space. On a surface level, this behavior is straightforward. He's talking about you to his friends. This is a common sign of interest, indicating that you are on his mind enough to become a subject of his conversations, and it often signals that he values his friends' opinions and is seeking their approval or is simply excited to share his interest. However, the Jungian interpretation reveals a much deeper psychological process at play, which we can call the externalization of the anima. Initially, his fascination with you is an internal, unconscious event, a powerful dialogue between his anima and his perception of you, happening entirely within the private theater of his own psyche. But the psyche seeks wholeness and reality. By speaking about you to his friends, he is taking a crucial step in bringing this unconscious content out of the shadows and into the shared, objective world of his social life. This act is a form of validation. It is his psyche's way of testing and solidifying these powerful inner feelings by making them real through external acknowledgement. He is unconsciously seeking to bridge the gap between the powerful, archetypal image of you within him, the anima, and you as an actual, external person. Introducing you, or the idea of you, to his friends is a ritual of integration. It represents a desire to see if this internal experience can hold its power and meaning when reflected in the eyes of others, and to begin the process of weaving you into the broader tapestry of his identity and his life, moving you from a powerful internal figure to a confirmed external reality. 7. He tries to integrate into your world. The seventh sign moves beyond mere curiosity and into a genuine desire to understand and participate in the fabric of your life. This is observed when he doesn't just politely ask about your job, but seeks to understand the nuances of your passion for it, when he doesn't just acknowledge your hobby, but makes an effort to learn about it or even try it with you, when he shows a sincere interest in your family stories, your cultural background, and the friends who have shaped your world. On the surface, this is the behavior of a supportive and invested partner, someone who cares about what is important to you. But from a Jungian perspective, this drive for integration is far more profound than simple support. It represents the powerful unconscious drive for psychic integration, a concept Jung explored through the alchemical idea of the Konjunktio, or the sacred marriage of opposites, often symbolized by the syzygy, the union of complementary pairs. His unconscious is not content to let you remain a separate, external other. It compels him to bridge the gap between his world, his consciousness, his established identity, his known universe, and yours. By actively seeking to understand and enter your world, he is attempting to create a new, unified whole from two separate realities. This is the psyche moving towards wholeness on an interpersonal level. He is intuitively trying to connect the very essence of his being with yours, to create a shared psychic space where the two separate selves can begin to merge into something greater. It is the lived expression of the unconscious's ultimate goal, to move beyond separation and toward unity. 8. He becomes protective. The eighth and final sign is a subtle yet powerful shift in his behavior that manifests as a protective instinct, carefully distinguished from controlling possessiveness. This is seen in small, instinctive actions. He moves to the street side of the sidewalk, his demeanor shifts to alertness in an unfamiliar or crowded environment. He offers his coat if you're cold, or he finds a quiet way to stand up for you or support your opinion in a group dynamic without silencing you. The surface-level reading often chalks this up to him being a gentleman, a product of social conditioning or good manners. However, Jungian theory would argue that this behavior originates from a much deeper, archetypal layer of the unconscious. This protective impulse is a manifestation of ancient archetypal patterns, most notably the hero archetype, which is not about grandiosity but about the fundamental drive to preserve, defend, and value that which is perceived as vitally important. His unconscious, which now profoundly values you as a connection to the anima and a source of psychic wholeness, triggers this primal, instinctual response. You are not just a person he likes. You have become the symbolic representation of something essential to his inner world. Therefore, the unconscious imperative to protect that source is activated. This is not a conscious calculation but an emergent property from the collective unconscious, a deeply ingrained, instinctual response to a perceived threat to something of immense value. It is the psyche's ancient defense mechanism for safeguarding a connection that it has deemed crucial for its own journey toward integration and completion. Now, as we wrap up this deep dive into the unconscious, it's absolutely essential to approach these signs with a crucial word of caution. While these 8 behaviors offer a fascinating lens into the hidden workings of attraction, they are not a definitive checklist or a magic formula. The human psyche is far too complex for that. It is vital to remember that these signs are about patterns and the language of the unconscious. Seeing 1 or 2 of them in isolation might not signify anything more than a friendly gesture or a coincidental moment. The true signal emerges when you observe a constellation of these behaviors, a repeating pattern that points toward a deeper, consistent undercurrent. But most importantly, beyond any Jungian analysis, the ultimate and irreplaceable sign of genuine interest is consistent, respectful, and clear communication. No unconscious signal can ever replace the value of someone who is emotionally mature and available enough to express their feelings openly and honestly. The goal of understanding these hidden signs is not to become a mind reader, but to become more discerning, to better understand the subtle language of intuition, and to ultimately encourage interactions that are built on clarity and mutual respect. It is also necessary to acknowledge the potential shadow side of this beautiful, unconscious process. The powerful mechanism of projection that fuels initial attraction can, if left unchecked, lead to a phenomenon called idealization. This occurs when a man falls not for the real, multifaceted, and imperfect human being in front of him, but for the perfect archetypal image he has projected onto you. He falls in love with the idea of you, a fantasy woven from his own unconscious needs, rather than the authentic you with your own strengths, flaws, and complexities. True, lasting connection requires both individuals to gradually withdraw these projections, to see and be seen in their entirety. It demands the courage to accept the whole person, their light and their shadow, and to love the real human being, not just the captivating unconscious image. This journey from projection to acceptance is the real work of love, moving from the enchanting, secret whispers of the unconscious to the conscious, chosen, and deeply rewarding practice of loving someone for who they truly are. So, to bring it all together, when a man is secretly falling for you on a Jungian level, it's less about dramatic, Hollywood-style grand gestures and more about the quiet, persistent whispers of his unconscious mind revealing itself through his actions. It's in the depth of his attention to the tiny details of your soul, in the courageous sharing of his hidden vulnerabilities, and in his powerful, driving need to bridge his world with yours, seeking to create a new, unified whole. It is the profound and ancient dance of the psyche moving toward wholeness, and you have become its most cherished partner in that dance. But what do you think? Does this psychological perspective resonate with your experiences? Have you noticed these unconscious signs at work in your own relationships? Which one of these 8 behaviors stood out to you the most? I would love to hear your stories and any questions you might have, so please share them in the comments below. Let's get a conversation started. And if you enjoyed this journey into the hidden depths of human connection and behavior, if you found it valuable, then please help support this channel by hitting the like button and subscribing for more content. Thank you so much for watching.